9 News Mornings at 8 a.m. starts right now.
Happy Saturday to you. Taking a live look outside at the Eisenhower Johnson tunnels, I-70 traffic has the potential to be a little chaotic this weekend, even by I-70 standards. CDOT says the math and history suggest a record-breaking surge in traffic. Good morning, I'm Lauren Scafidi. We'll have more on that in just a minute. But first, a winter weather advisory is in store for the mountains this afternoon with several inches of snow and high wind gusts. Weather Impact Team meteorologist Chris Spears is here with a preview of what we can expect this weekend. Hey, Chris.
Hey there, good morning to you. Happy Saturday. A very busy weather story to tell for you today. One in the high country. Right now you're okay, but snow is quickly knocking on the door to our mountains. In fact, parts of the western slope, Grand Mesa, for instance, snow is starting. Here in Denver and on the eastern plains, we are dealing with fog. Look at the sun kind of lighting the top layer of this fog in the foothills there. Just a stunning view from our Lookout Mountain camera. Most of eastern Colorado under a dense fog advisory through 10 o'clock. This fog is freezing fog, so we are worried about slick spots on the roads, and we do have delays at the airport, as you heard. Back there near Salt Lake City, there is a storm system, and it's moving in as we speak to western Colorado. Snow will fly in the high country late morning into the early afternoon and last all night. 4 to 10 inches of snow up there. Our far eastern plains, some bands of snow should lay down in general, about 1 to 4 inches of snow. Here in Denver, a little tricky. We do think we'll see a few bands of snow after 3 o'clock. In general, a trace to maybe 1, 2, 3 inches in spots, but the east and south side of town could see just a little bit more. We'll talk about that more in detail here in the forecast coming up. But first, light snow possible after 3:37 for a high today, Lauren. It's going to be a chilly one if you're outside.
Thank you so much, Chris. If you're heading up to the mountains to take advantage of all that snow, it's likely going to take you a little bit longer to get there. CDOT says their record-breaking predictions are based off of I-70's New Year's past. The last time New Year's Eve was in the middle of the week like this, that was in 2020, where CDOT recorded the 5th highest winter weekend that was not a holiday. More than 150,000 cars traveled through the tunnels that year.
So that is some really, really heavy traffic. You combine that with the expected snow that we will get on Saturday, lasting through Sunday, through much of the weekend, that can complicate it even more. You do need to be psychologically and mentally prepared for a drive along the I-70 mountain corridor.
We all know a crash will just make everything worse, so just be careful. You'll eventually get there. We have a link to the real-time conditions from CDOT in this article on 9news.com. And as always, make sure you're prepared with good winter tires, emergency items, and gear just in case. The weather is also expected to impact air travel. Already is this morning. This is a current look at cancellations and delays at DIA on FlightAware.com. Right now, there are 70 delays and 8 cancellations. If you plan on flying out today, just be sure to check your flight status before you leave, and as always, get there early just in case. The FAA has also issued a 15-minute ground delay for all flights arriving to Denver. The FAA had to issue a ground stop yesterday morning because of fog, delaying about 300 flights. Since this cold is sticking around, the city and county of Denver extending its severe weather shelters into next week. They'll stay open until 11 a.m. on Wednesday. The city will provide extra space at the Stone Creek shelter. That's the former Best Western off Quebec, north of I-70. Shelters will also be provided at city facilities on West 7th and South Zuni, and a few so-called front door shelters around the city will have expanded capacity. Our team will, of course, keep a close eye on all of these conditions as they develop throughout the weekend. You can stay up to date on our 9 News app. It is free to download on the Apple and Google Play Store. New overnight, Denver police investigating a crash involving 6 cars. We now know there were no injuries, but it shut down 3 lanes of I-25. DPD says the crash happened on the on-ramp from northbound I-225 to I-25 in the DTC area. This was around 1 o'clock in the morning. You really can't see much other than that heavy police presence at the time. They still don't know what led up to the crash. They had to shut down 3 lanes to northbound I-25. Those have since reopened. Once we learn more, we'll update you on air and online. Colorado State Patrol is cracking down on drivers who weave in and out of the express lanes on the I-25 gap. Tickets are now being sent out for anyone caught on camera entering or exiting the lanes incorrectly between Monument and Castle Rock. According to CDOT, 10,000 drivers were issued warnings during the grace period last month. CDOT hired a contractor who spent 2 years working on new technology to detect express lane weaving. It's the first of its kind in the country. Fines for these violations will start at $75, and then they'll go up to $150 if they're not paid within 20 days. Colorado State Patrol says drowsy driving is what likely caused a deadly crash in Boulder County on New Year's Day. Troopers believe 43-year-old Joshua Gilson fell asleep at the wheel and the car rolled. This is a look at that damage. He died, and so did his wife, Christina. Their 2 kids survived the crash. The State Patrol tells our Evan Krugel that they're seeing more of these crashes lately.
Colorado roads are filled with drivers on different journeys. And at speeds like this, it can be tough to figure out who's of sound mind.
It's not as easy as it seems sometimes.
Trooper Sherry Mendez says texting and alcohol are frequent factors when she sees a driver swerving, but that's not always the case.
I have found that out. I have pulled somebody over and she was legit, I saw her slapping herself in the car. And I pulled her over, and it was because she was doing a long drive, and I was talking to her and I was trying to look in her eyes and nothing, and she's just tired from driving.
State Patrol now believes a deadly crash in Boulder County Wednesday was caused by the driver falling asleep behind the wheel, a tragedy troopers are seeing more often.
Statistically, we have seen an increase in 2023 to 2024 of 43%. An increase of fatigue driving causing crashes.
Last year, CSP says 56 crashes statewide involved an injury from a driver who was tired or asleep, up from 39 in 2023. Sherry says the impacts of drowsy driving are often similar to driving drunk, and she says drivers often think they can continue on safely.
With a lot of drivers, you may be feeling tired anyway, and you may think, oh, a Red Bull is going to help me. Slapping myself, having coffee. No, that is not the case.
State Patrol says if you're feeling tired, the best thing you can do is pull over right away. They say even a 20-minute nap can often give you the energy you need to safely make it to your destination.
Coffee is not going to do it for us. But as long as you know that you're too tired to drive, don't get behind that wheel.
In Denver, Evan Krugel, 9 News.
The FBI says the Coloradan who blew up a rented Cybertruck outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas was dealing with mental health issues. They don't believe it was an act of terrorism. Investigators say Matthew Livelsberger, a Green Beret from Colorado Springs, died by suicide shortly before this explosion on Wednesday. No one else was killed, but there were some minor injuries. Investigators revealed Livelsberger left a note on his phone indicating he wanted to give America a wake-up call, and he wasn't trying to hurt people or make a statement about President-elect Donald Trump. They said they believe he had PTSD. He deployed twice to Afghanistan.
Investigative steps have discovered, and information from the Army indicates, that he likely suffered from PTSD, and we are also aware that there were potential other family issues or personal grievances in his own life that may have been contributing factors. Again, we're looking into all of that. It's evident that the subject considered, planned, and thoughtfully prepared for this act alone.
The FBI reiterated that there doesn't appear to be a link between Livelsberger and the man who drove a truck into a crowd in New Orleans, killing at least 14 people that same day. In New Orleans, Bourbon Street is back open after this week's deadly attack, but the investigation goes on. Federal investigators revealed the suspect in that New Orleans attack set his rental home on fire before driving his truck down Bourbon Street. The FBI says Sham Shadeen Jabbar set the fire to try to hide the evidence just before that attack. They found bomb-making materials and a silencer for a rifle. Investigators say Jabbar planted 2 explosive devices on Bourbon Street, but they never went off. A memorial for the New Orleans truck attack victims keeps growing. Friday, family members walked arm in arm to the memorial in the French Quarter. Louisiana's governor declared a mourning period starting Monday. Each of the victims will have their own individual day of remembrance. President Biden and the First Lady will head to New Orleans Monday to meet with the people impacted by that attack. Services for former President Jimmy Carter start today. A motorcade will take his body through his hometown of Plains, Georgia, to the state capitol, stopping at the Carter Presidential Center. He'll lie in repose there until Tuesday, January 7th. Then his body will be taken to the U.S. Capitol, where he'll lie until January 9th. There will be a public funeral in D.C. and a private one in Plains that day. President Biden also declared next Thursday, January 9th, a national day of mourning.